In the 15th chapter of St. Luke here, it talks about three different things that were lost. The first is a lost sheep, where one sheep wandered off and he left the 99 and went after the one that was lost in order to bring restoration to that one. The second one was the lost coin. And the lady swept the house until she found the coin. And the third is the parable of the lost son. This is the lost son who went out of his own will, asked for the portion of goods that were to fall to him, and he went out and spent it on riotous living, and you know the story. It speaks about three different areas, I believe, of stewardship with which all fathers have. That is stewardship over the possession, the lost sheep. That represents possessions. Stewardship over our finances, that's the lost coin. And then thirdly, stewardship over our relationships, that's the lost son. As you'll notice, when the sheep was lost, they went after the sheep, went looking for the sheep. When the coin was lost, they went on a search for the coin. But when the son was lost, nobody went after the son, because the son left on his own will, and if you bring them back against their will, they won't stay. And so they had to send goodness and mercy after them. And surely goodness and mercy shall follow them all of the days of their life. Sometimes we got to have some praying folks that'll send goodness and mercy after them all of the days of their life. And so here we see the story here of the prodigal son, beginning with the 11th verse of the 15th chapter of St. Luke. And he said, this is Jesus speaking here, a certain man had two sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falls to me. And so he divided to them his livelihood. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together, journeyed to a far country, and there wasted his possession with prodigal living. But when he had spent all, there arose a severe famine in that land, and he began to be in want. Then he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into his fields to feed swine. And he would gladly have filled his stomach with the pods that the swine ate, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have bread enough and to spare, and I perish with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. And he arose and came to his father, and when he was still a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion, and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, bring out the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet, and bring the fatted calf here and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found, and they began to be merry. I'm talking about really how to be made. There's a difference between give and make. When the prodigal son left home, he said, give me the portion of goods that fall to me. Give me, give me, give me, give me. And when we give to a generation, we don't really help them. I think in the long run, we actually end up hurting them. You can give a child opportunities, but when you begin to give them the things that they think will support them in terms of their livelihood, you actually cause them to fall. The very first father fell in history. It was Adam. Remember that when his wife Eve gave to him, Adam fell. She gave him forbidden fruit, and he fell, because God designed him to be a giver. And he had to give out of what he was made. And let me tell you this, before God gave Adam a wife, he gave him a job. So that he could till the soil and he could produce something. A man needs to be a producer of something before he has the responsibility of taking care of a wife. He needs to be productive. You better make sure, ladies, that he's been in the field tilling the soil and that he's got fruit. Are you listening? Or you will be sorry that you picked something that was not ripe. he had a command after God blessed him to be fruitful and then to multiply and then replenish the earth. So God gave him a job and told him to till the soil and reproduce. I want you to make yourself useful and productive. Here, God put him in a place, gave him seed, scattered it, and it was a glorious garden, but God says, I want you to make it. I want you to make it. You know, one man came up on this man's beautiful, beautiful farm and property. I saw all of these flowers, all of these fruit trees and vines and vegetation and all of that. And he says, what a beautiful thing that God has done. He said, you should have seen the land when God had it by himself. See, God will give us opportunities, and then he will equip us with tools and abilities in our own life, and then you got to make something. When you give to a person and strictly give to them, I guarantee you they'll come back for it. You give a man a fish, you'll feed him for a day, he'll be back tomorrow. Or 2 or 3 more days, 2 or 3 more weeks, you know, he'll give him hold another $20. And you keep giving to them, you're really not helping them. You are actually prolonging the inevitable in their life. But when you make them, it's when daddy begins to come alongside, and daddy will actually begin to show you something. There's a Jewish maxim that says this, that he who does not teach his son a trade is equal to him who teaches him robbery. In other words, you got to be able to give him the tools and create the opportunities for them to be able to make a living. Your daddy can't give you a living. Nobody gave you a living. You had to make a living, and you got to be able to take and do with what you've got. You got to use what you've got in order to get what you want. God will give you some resources, natural resources, but then you have got to make it. Make it, make it. You got to fly or die, swim or sink. You have got to make it, baby. You got to look at yourself and say, if it's gonna be, it's up to me. God has given me some equipment, but I'm telling you, your shovel and your hoe is not gonna just get up and start working and throwing dirt. He'll give you the tools, he'll give you seed. You can have seed in the package in your house, and you're waiting on God to bless you, and you got a package full of seeds. Seeds are ideas in your mind, in your heart that you've never acted on, and God says, I've given you the stuff, I want you to make it. You got ingredients in there, you got flour in the cupboard, you got butter in there, you got oil in there. Make me a cake. It was a prophet that went to a widow woman that didn't have very much. She said, I don't have anything but a cruse of oil and a little flour. He said, make me a cake. There's something that you just can't give a person and expect to help them. They've got to be made. That is a making. We want something to be made. Making is a process. And when you give, that's an overnight sensation. When he said, Dad, give me the stuff that belongs to me, Dad just gave it to him all at one time. But you have to be made. You don't want to just give to somebody, because when you give to them, you'll actually cause them to be destroyed. It's like you put them on life support. I told you, if you really want to ever understand something, go back and look at the heart of it. G-I-V-E. Look at what's in the center, I-V. Folks that's in the hospital get put on an IV. They're not doing anything for themselves, but you got an IV what you just given to them. Are you listening? And you just got something. If you want to just keep somebody in a hospital bed and just keep on giving it to them. You see, but folks get shocked when they hear that when I was young, I had a drug problem. I know you didn't know that. But my mama drugged me to church. She drugged me to Sunday school. May I tell you that she didn't give us a choice in the matter? You know, I've met some little socialites. Well, I don't believe in forcing my children to do anything. I'm going to give them a choice. My mama came to the house. Get up from there. Get up from there. Everything in this house is get me up. Mama got everything. I was made to go to church when I didn't want to go to church. Sometimes when the person is too immature to make the right decision, you got to make it for them. You don't turn, you know what? I used to take all of my children into the restaurant, and we'd go in there, and the waitress would thank me because I wouldn't be fumbling around looking at a 2-year-old asking, baby, what do you want to eat? Daddy made the decision, and I would say, listen, we're going to have to give them string beans and some applesauce and bring them a piece of roll and some Jell-O, and I would give them the whole order. I get fed up looking at a grown person looking at a 1.5-year-old child asking, what do you want, baby? When you grow up, then you'll make that decision, but Daddy gonna make it today. Oh, they thank me because I'm a decision maker. And I want them to see me making decisions so that they'll learn how to make decisions and be confident in their ability to make a decision. And brothers, let me tell you this, one of the worst things that you can do with a woman that you love in your life is to be at a point where you can't make a decision. When you get ready to go out to eat, and then before you back out, then you turn and ask the infamous question, where do you want to go? Surprise homegirl for a change. Just take me anywhere. Just make a decision. Take me somewhere. Don't let me have to tell you about it. I don't. Choose a place, put it in a bag, shake it up and pull it out and pull straws, do something. I want y'all to be daddy. Mama like to feel like a little girl every now and then. You know how little children used to get into a little argument and then they tell them how you do it, you then say, make me. Well, once we come into this position, it shows great maturity when you are no longer asking somebody to give you. May I help you to understand that there is a progression in the things of God. The Bible says, ask and ye shall receive. Asking is a progression in development. Notice ask, A-S-K, ask, seek, knock. In the most immature form of it, it's just ask it. When a baby cries, they are asking for food and then they get it. As you grow up, you don't just ask. The way that you ask is that you seek. When it's time for employment, you don't just go and just ask mama, give me some money, ask dad to give me some money. You better start seeking a job. See, that's a different level of maturity. But seeking is still a form of asking. Are you listening? And then what's even beyond that is knocking. Knocking is a deeper form of still seeking. But it's not sitting at home asking. Wouldn't it be silly for me to sit at home and ask for direction? Once you ask for direction, then you need to seek them out. Get in the car and go and seek them out. Then wouldn't it be foolish for you to get to the destination and sit in the car and not have enough sense to go up to the door and actually knock? When you knock, it means that I am not waiting for this thing to just come here and explode on me. I've got to get out now, and as an act of my will, I am pursuing this. I am going to make this an opportunity. This son who was at home had his daddy giving to him out of what the daddy had already provided. But the problem is that when somebody gives to you out of what they have accomplished in their life, it brings no development to your life. I couldn't understand my daddy. I thought my daddy was cheap and just being stingy because daddy wouldn't give us anything. My daddy had 6 sons and he wouldn't give us anything. He wouldn't give us an allowance, but daddy gave us an opportunity to earn money. But he wouldn't give us anything. He would not give us anything. And I'm like, that old tightwater Scrooge. And I didn't understand it and I didn't appreciate it at the time, but little did I know that daddy was making me. Because when I got grown, I found out that people were not just going to give me. And when people have been given as a child growing up and thinking that money grows on trees, and every time they need something, they come there and say, I need some money for lunch. I need it for my field trip. I need it. I need it. And every time they turn around, they're looking at you needing something else. I need another pair of shoes. I need some more clothes. I need to get my hair done. No, you need a job. As they grow and as they mature, fathers are designed to bring maturity. And this is one of the reasons that other folks, not here at Word of Faith, but they've been cursed with fatherlessness, is because fatherlessness is a problem of childishness. The only reason that a man won't be a father to his children is because he's a child at heart. Because maybe he never had a father to mature him and to grow him up. Because it takes a father to say, I'm not going to do it for you, boy. I'll show you how to do it. You watch me. Come here. And they put you, and they worked. You learned a trade. In fact, your name was developed because of your trade. You became a smith because you were a coppersmith, a silversmith, a blacksmith. Your name had to do with everything about what you were, but that's how you made your living. And see, we've got individuals that have been so given today that they have been destroyed because they've not been made. You don't really help your children when you give to them. You help them when you make them. When you make them, and making is always done by process. Can I give you all a couple of nuggets? Parents may but never teach unless they practice what they preach. Here's a good one for you. Children seldom misquote you. In fact, they usually repeat word for word what you shouldn't have said. A man should first direct himself in the way he should go. Only then should he instruct others. As we learn, as we grow, as we begin to make things, we come into a position of where we can make things. Fatherhood is really the art of bringing up children without putting them down. It's really what fatherhood is about. That's why the Bible says, Colossians 3:21, fathers, provoke not your children to anger lest you discourage them. We have to be able to bring them up without putting them down. We see something positive in them and we encourage them. Because you see, if a child has low self-esteem because they didn't get loved by their father, you know what they'll do? Is that they will become performance-based, always trying to do things, to achieve things, to say, look at me, look, I did it. Will you pat me on the back now? Am I approved now? Am I accepted now? And that's why a father, if he's going to build and secure the esteem of his son or of his daughter, he needs to be able to give her affirmation. Every little boy, every little girl needs to be affirmed. They need to be able to be verbally affirmed by the father, saying, I love you, I'm proud of you, you are special to me, you're the apple of my eye, I'm so glad that you're a part of this family. They need affirmation. Esteem is built through affirmation. It is built through affection, where you're not afraid to touch your children, where you will embrace them, where you will hug them, where you will kiss them. They need acceptance, because even though they got a bad grade in school, you're still my son. You still my daughter, even though you cut up over there in that field trip and they had to call me up there and interrupt me at work. You still my little girl, you still my boo. I mean, and they still have got to know that they are loved unconditionally, because they're going to mess up. It's not a father's responsibility to keep his child from falling. It's a father's responsibility to teach his child to get up every time he falls. Every time she falls. If a father's daughter gets pregnant out of wedlock, he's got to let her know, sweetheart, you were not the first and you won't be the last. And you can make it. You're a champion on the inside. You can still go to school. You don't have to drop out just because you've got a baby. You're going to become a model to your own child, to say that you're not going to let a mistake cause your life to be destroyed, and you're going to overcome everything that happened to grandmama and your aunt and your other folks in the ancestry back here. You're an overcomer, and you begin to speak life because you're affirming them, and you're giving them the affection to let them know that I still love you. And then you're bringing powerful acceptance in that life, and that will brace them for powerful achievement, that will really help to secure them in who they are honestly called to be. And so we have to be able to grow, and we develop, and we continue to sharpen ourselves. And I want to encourage you men to begin to build relationship with other men that are doing a good job with their children, because you'll learn some things that are working for them that you can begin to employ in your life. And it is so important. I was just ministering yesterday up in Indianapolis in a men's conference. And one of the other gentlemen that shared along with me in one of the sessions is a guy that used to be a gangbanger and a dope dealer. And he said to me, I didn't have a daddy in my life. And he said, and there was nobody in the church that came and put their arms around me and showed me and said, son, this is the way that you be a man. And he said, the only folks that beckoned for me to come were dope dealers and gangsters. He said they came and said, hey, come here, partner. I'm going to show you the ropes. I'm going to teach you the streets. I'm going to teach you how to hustle. And they took interest in him and showed him all the wrong things. And there was an openness and a vulnerability in him because he didn't have anybody else to teach him and say, this is how you be a man. Another young man stood up to me. He said, I've got 3 baby mamas. I'm not married to any of them. He said, I've made a mess of my life because I didn't have a daddy, so I had no example. I didn't know what a man was supposed to be. He said I had nobody to show me what a man was supposed to be. You'll be surprised, ladies, sometimes how men hurt because they're doing the best that they know how. It's hard for them to overcome the lack of example that they had or the bad example that they might have had in their own life. It is so interesting. One woman didn't realize that her daddy really cared about her. Her daddy seemed emotionally distant all of their life, and she was daddy's little girl and loved her daddy, but daddy was emotionally disconnected from her, and she didn't realize it until her daddy was on his deathbed. And her daddy passed, and he had left her a letter. And it said, "Dear Sharon, I think that you're a wonderful person, and I've always admired the qualities in you because you're a meticulous." He said, "You're going to be a great teacher." And when she read his letter after his death, she realized three things about her father that she did not know. Number one, she realized that her father loved her. Her father loved her. Secondly, she realized that her father knew her, that he recognized her gifts. He knew that she was called to be a teacher. She didn't really know, but her dad saw it in her and spoke to it, and it released in her, and she's a teacher by profession today. Her dad saw that. When she couldn't see it herself, he spoke to it. She said, "My dad knew me. He loved me. He knew me." And the third thing that she learned about her dad is that her dad was not there for her because he felt that he had nothing to offer. And he felt that by his pulling away and not being involved in her life, that he would do her a better service than to pollute and contaminate her. And the reason he had not been involved is because he felt he had nothing to offer. And little did he know that she needed a daddy's hug to say, "Baby, I may not have much, but everything I got, I'm giving it to you." And you never do know how sometimes men that want to help, but they don't know how. And they feel like I've messed up too much, and I don't want you to mess up, baby, and the best thing that I can do is pull away because it breaks my heart to sit here and to watch something bad happen to your life. And he thought that he was making the best contribution by actually pulling away. And when she read her daddy's letter, something broke in her heart. A well broke, a dam broke, and the tears began to flow. And healing began to come, because now for the first time she had a picture in her daddy's mind and in his heart, and she was able to understand. I've had to counsel with a young man whose daddy blew his brains out. And little did he know that when the daddy put the gun to his head, that he would actually blow his own son's brains out in the process of killing himself. Because he shattered his son's emotions, because his daddy left him with so many unanswered questions. And he never gave him an understanding. And there was a hurt and there was a pain that was there. But I want you to know that as men and as fathers, as we grow, as we develop, we seek for God to help us in so many different areas. When I was in Indianapolis yesterday, an older gentleman, old enough to be my father, came up to me and he said these words to me, leaned over. He said, "I have talked with God for 25 years, living my own way, and I used to just talk with him, like, God, watch my back. You know what I'm out here doing. God, you watch over me. God, you protect me." Tried to do little business deals and said, "God, bless me, God bless me." He said, "I have talked with God for 25 years. He said, "I have walked with God for 3 years. And I said to him, yes, you have talked with God for 25 years. But when you talked with God for 25 years, you went where you wanted to go. When you walk with God, you go where he wants you to go." I said, "So you're on another journey now." And there are some men that are in this house today, and you have been talking to God, but you really haven't been walking with him. And yet in your heart, you want to walk with God, but yet run with devils. And God says, "I'm lonely for your fellowship. Let's take a walk."
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bryant.